simple if statements with character conditions. So these 4 exercises today have the need for a condition where a character variable is used. Each exercise has its own little complexity. We start simple with an exercise that declares a variable char data type. We're going to name it letter, and we're going to store our initial. So since this is a char variable, the value, in my case, uppercase G, is surrounded by single quote because the character literals need the single quote around. That is an important fact to remember because when we use characters in the condition, that is going to be very important. So the next thing we're going to do is to have an if statement for the output. So for that reason, I erased the part of the algorithm that said something else. So this program has a declaration and then some output that is dependent on the condition. We want to find out if the letter variable has an asterisk stored in it. So that's an equality type of condition. So if letter equals single quote asterisk single quote, then I want to see the word asterisk on the screen. Regardless of whether the condition is true or false, I'm going to display something on the screen to make sure that I can tell that the program executed correctly when the condition is false. Otherwise, I wouldn't see anything. I would just see the green success message at the end. So I'm going to say thank you for using the asterisk program. So we build the program, we make sure that there is no syntax errors, and then we run it. And because my value was a G, when I compare for the equality against an asterisk, the condition will be false. And what is inside the if will not execute. So I do not see the output statement asterisk because I didn't have an asterisk in the variable. I'm running the program now with an asterisk in the letter variable. So now we do see the asterisk word. All right, exercise 2 is a program that compares, rather than comparing the content of a variable against a specific character, I'm going to compare 2 variables to each other. So this is something that we do when we want to sort uh, alphabetically. So I want to find out if the value stored in any1 is greater than, equal to, or less than the value stored in any2. So starting with my own initials, any1 is going to be the uppercase G, any2 is going to be the uppercase A, and then I'm going to set up 3 different conditions. I need 3 because I want to find out if any1 is less than any2. I want to check if any1 is equal to any2, or I want to find out if any1 is greater than any2. So if any1 is less than any2, it means that alphabetically the letter that is stored in any1 is first in the alphabet compared to the value in any2. So my output statement is going to display the character and it's going to say it's lower than the other character stored in any2. Next, I'm going to check for the equality. because you want to do this in order. You check if the first one is less than the second one, you check if they're equal to each other, and then you check for the opposite of the first case, which would be any1 greater than any2. So I'm checking for the equality. Don't forget that you need two equal signs when you're comparing for equality. And now I'm going to display um, an output statement that indicates that the two values are equal to each other, which means that both variables hold the same letter. So A, B, B, C, C, something like that. And finally, after this output statement is finished, we're going to check for the alternative that is missing, which is if any1 is greater than any2. And that will cover the three possibilities. We're going to see later on that we would code this slightly differently, but that is for the next topic. For now, we're just setting up, we're learning and we're practicing setting up conditions. So we're going with the flow and we write three separate if statements, one with each condition, and each one has its own output statement. Since the output was very similar to the first one, I copied and pasted it and changed the word lower to higher. And then I can keep that have a nice day, or I can say thank you for using my program, any goodbye message. So make sure that you have all the closing brackets, that you didn't accidentally delete anything. Then we build it, and when we run it, because I have G and A, it's going to say that G is higher than A. So that's the if statement that executes. The first two, the conditions were false, so they didn't execute, and the third one worked. So now I'm changing the value of any1 to an uppercase A, and I'm storing the G in any2. So when I run this, we're going to see that it's going to say that A is lower than G. So what this means is that the first condition was true, so that's the statement that run, and the next two conditions were checked for, but they were false, so nothing happened, and the have a great day executed. Finally, I need to make the two variables set to the same value. That way I run through the middle if statement. When we have if statements, we need to make sure that we run the program for all the alternatives to run properly. So now it's saying that both letters are the same. So that means that the middle if statement is the one that worked. And then have a nice day is also displayed. So that was an exercise that compares two characters, and in reality what Java uses is the Unicodes, but we don't need to deal with the Unicodes. That's a concept that we need to understand that is used in the background, but the data type allows us to compare them without worrying about the numeric value. So now we're dealing with exercise number 3 in this screen. And in this one, I wanted to help you remember the string methods. So this is an example in which we would find the use to extracting the first character of a word. So I made it like a generic word, but you imagine that this is what you can use if you're writing a program where the user needs to set up a password. And a lot of times passwords cannot start with a number, password cannot start with a symbol. So this is how you would check what is the value in the first character. You would have a string where the word is stored. So now we have a string user word, and I'm setting up the word to be aloha, all in lowercase. And then we have a char variable for where we're going to store the first character of the word stored in user word. So to extract the first character, we say first equals, remember, the name of the string goes first, and then the method char add and position 0. So in this case, we would be holding the lowercase a in the variable first. But we don't know this when we write the program. We write the program for the generic situation to find out if the first letter of the user word is an uppercase A. That's what we want to test for. Writing a condition, we also call it testing for a value. So we're testing if the first character of the user word is an uppercase A. So the condition would be if first is not equal to uppercase A, then we want to say the word does not start with an uppercase A. Some of you may be interested in not having the variable chart data type and just extracting the character in the parentheses, but as I explained in the past, it is not good style to have an action inside the parentheses of an if statement. So here we have it that the program run, and it says the first letter of the word is not an uppercase A. Where if you were asking the user to give you a word that starts with uppercase A, it would be a mistake. So now we're changing the value of the string from lowercase to uppercase, and then we're going to see what happens when we run it. But before doing that, I changed that goodbye message to repeat the value that was entered by the user. So I want to make sure that the correct letter was stored in the character variable. So I am displaying that to the screen. So now the output reads the first letter of the word is not an uppercase A. The first letter is lowercase a. These are the kinds of messages that you want to include in your output to help the user. You know how many times we get an error message when we're running a program and we don't see the mistake that we made, because it's really difficult for a person to remember, to realize that they're making a mistake when they're entering a password, for example, such as when we use caps lock accidentally and we reverse the use of upper and lower case. It's hard for us to realize. But if you have a message that says you started with a lower case, then you know that something is wrong with your casing. Okay, so now we're going to make this program interactive. So we're going to prompt the user for the word. So we have the import statement. We set up the object for the keyboard, and we're going to start the string. We initialize the string with all asterisks. It's very common to initialize an asterisk that needs to be initialize a variable that is string data type. It is very common to initialize it to all asterisks. You probably have seen when you input a password in a dialog box, a lot of times you see all asterisks as you're typing or before you type it in. So it's a common technique. That's why I'm requesting that you use that. So we initialize the user word to asterisk. We initialize the first variable to the single asterisk. Then we get values because we prompt the user. So system.out.print, please type a word that starts with the uppercase A. Then we accept that input as a string with the method next line. So user word equals from the keyboard the next line. And then that's all we have to change in this program, because then we extract the first character. That stays the same as before. And we display the appropriate message if the first character is not an uppercase A. So what's going to change this outcome is when we run it, what input the guy types in. So here I'm putting the two messages inside the if statement. So for that reason, I'm putting brackets. So I do a couple of different styles so you can see uh, how it changes what you see in the output if you have two lines of code inside the if statement, or if later on I move it outside. So I'm thanking the user for the word they typed in. Again, whenever you ask the user for input, it's always a good idea to show them what input they have provided. So by putting this output message inside the if statement, the word that the guy typed in is only going to show up when the first letter is not an uppercase A, because you're saying if first does not equal uppercase A, display these two messages. So I built the program and now I'm going to run it a few times. So now notice that I just spaced because it was bunched up together. So check out what happens. It says that the first letter is not an uppercase letter. So that could be confusing. But remember, if where every keystroke that you do is stored in the string. So if you space out to make room for the word, the first character is the space. So now I'm spelling it out bunched up together, and now it recognizes that the first character is an A. And now I'm going to make the prompt a little cleaner by adding some space in it. That way the user doesn't accidentally type in a space first. So now when I run it, it's going to look much nicer. So now you don't have the urge to space, and you type in animals with uppercase and the first letter is an uppercase A. And it's not repeating the word because it starts with an uppercase A. So now that line, I'm going to move it outside. So if I move it outside, I can get rid of those brackets, because brackets are only necessary when you have more than one line of code inside the if. So even if that output statement were indented, it's considered outside the if. So now when I type in a word that starts with an uppercase A, it repeats the word and it also says the first character is an A. And then I run it again with a different expression, and you're going to see that it's going to display the three output statements, the one inside the if and the two afterwards. So sorry, it was a little long of a video, maybe a little slow at times, but hopefully everybody could follow, keep up. And don't forget, when you play a YouTube video, you can change the setting so it speeds up if the video is too small for you. Oh, that's what I wanted to see. Sorry about that.